up, YouTube? This is a Two Stangs production. I'm your host, Two Stangs, and today we're going to talk about my 93 limited edition Mustang. We're going to talk about my history and my love for Mustangs. We're going to talk about how the car almost killed me, almost made me look like Freddy Krueger one day. And talk about a little bit about the build and how I've progressed. This will probably be a two-part series, so this will be part one about my 93 feature car. Really excited to talk to you guys about this car. This actually is the reason why I wanted to start the channel. This car was the motivation for me wanting to do a YouTube channel, but I do have a confession to make. I actually cannot get the car started right now. So I started my channel, you know, things have been going fine with the car, and I actually came out one day and I was ready to film, you know, got my new camera, was excited. I almost skipped into the car. Got in it, couldn't get it started. You talk about really being upset. I was pissed off. I felt like Chevy Chase when his Christmas lights wouldn't come on.
What's going on here?
So after I calmed down and realized, hey, if your car's going to give you issues, the best time for it to do that is the winter time, because we're not going to be doing a lot of driving in the salt and snow anyway. So I just said, relax, got other things to work on, other things to do, and I'm just waiting on my good buddy Josh to get by here and help me out with this thing. And I'll introduce you guys to Josh in another video later in the channel, but Josh is one of my gurus that helps me out when I can't solve my problem. So you're probably wondering why I have a Letterman jacket on. I'm getting my Al Bundy on today because I'm going to give you a little bit of history about me and history about my love for Mustangs. So my love of Mustangs goes back all the way back to my college days. I had a triple white Foxbody Mustang convertible in college. So friends that stop by that haven't seen me for a while, they kind of do a triple take. They think this is the same car, but this is not the same car. The car I had in college was a 91 triple white convertible, and it was not a limited edition. This car is a limited edition. This is number 738 of 1500 that were built. So some of the things that were different from this car compared to the car I had in college, it's a limited edition. So like I said, it was 1500 made back in 1993. The limited edition cars did have the white trim around the windshield. The other LX convertibles were black. Also the trim around the doors is white, and the mirrors are white as well. As for on the other convertible cars, that was black. So like I said, I had bought a 91 convertible in college, and I actually was in the student center one day, and we were on the internet, and I was looking for, you know, bolt-on stuff that people order, mass air meter, underdrive pulleys, stuff like that. And I stumbled across this triple white GT convertible, and it was called the White Phantom. It actually was in Muscle Mustangs and Fast Fords, and it was the November 2004 edition. So I saw this car on the internet, and I was with my roommate Will. We were taking a look, and Will doesn't even like Mustangs. He saw this car and he was like, man, that thing is bad. He said, man, one thing about it, you know what the potential of your car is. And so I saw that car and it was like a bug bit me. and I've been chasing something ever since. Long story short, not too much later, I realized that, you know, I'm looking at this car on the internet. I mean, this guy's got the Cobra R hood, he's got a Windsor-based built motor, he's got 5 conversion, he's got the real torque thrust wheels that are 2-piece, custom made, not the ones that you get at Pep Boys. He had the real expensive ones, and I just realized that I was chasing something that just wasn't attainable at that time. So I got frustrated, and I actually ended up selling that car. I sold that car, and I ended up, once I graduated, I ended up moving down to Tennessee, took a job in tobacco, and got down there, and that's when I realized I want another Mustang. So I was talking to a neighbor one day, and I was telling him, hey man, you know, really want another convertible Foxbody. And this guy said, you know what man, if you're looking for a Foxbody, I'm gonna take you over to talk to my buddy Mike Ward. And I said, you know, who is Mike Ward? He said, you know, we call him Mustang Mike. It's like, man, Mike's got all kind of Mustangs. He's got a convertible that he drives to work. He's got a blue all-motor nitrous car, that's his main race car. And then he's got this green one, and this green Kawasaki green car, that's the car that he races, but he also shows out on the streets in it too. He said, you know, one night on the 45 bypass, I saw Mike Ward go a half a mile down the 45 bypass sideways, drifting in this green car. I said, man, he was drifting on the bypass? He said, yeah. I said, man, you know, this guy's pretty bad. He's like, man, not only is Mike bad, Mike comes from a long heritage of Mustang owners. You know, his uncle actually runs the Jackson drag strip, and his uncle is so bad, I've seen him put together a small block 302 with a pair of vice grips. I said, vice grips? This man put together a motor with a pair of vice grips? He said, yeah man, I seen his Uncle Floyd put together a small block 302 with a set of vice grips. So I'm getting all the local legend stories about Mike Ward. So long story short, after that night, Dustin did actually take me to the track, but it just so happens that Mike wasn't there that night. So Dustin actually introduced me to Mike's friend Justin, and Justin had a burgundy coupe car, it was a 347 car, and he said, man, my neighbor here, he's looking to get another Mustang, why don't you take him for a ride in your car? So got in Dustin's car, went down the drag strip a couple times. And the bug had bit me. I said, you know, I got to get me another Mustang. So a little time had gone by, and you know, I had other things, other priorities. I didn't quite get to getting around to getting the Mustang when I said I was going to. So maybe about another 2 years had went by, and 2 years after I took that ride in Justin's 347 coupe, I was ready. So I had been looking on the internet, but I kind of shifted gears. I actually was looking for a Buick Grand National. I said, you know, I've had a Mustang, I want to do something a little different. You know, I want a little bit different type of car this time. So I was looking at Grand Nationals, and I had gone and looked at about probably 3 or 4, and I actually just stumbled across this car on Craigslist back in 2010. Yeah, I've owned this car for 12 years. So I stumbled on this car, and I said, you know what, I was in Louisville, came home for the weekend, and I said, you know, I gotta get back to Jackson, and this car was in Evansville, Indiana. So it was 4 hours to go back to Tennessee through Evansville, or 4 hours to take a straight shot back through Nashville, back to Jackson. So I said, this is a no-brainer. I'm gonna go look at this car. Went and looked at it. Guy had it in his garage, took me for a ride in it, you know, took me down the street, car pinned me to the seat, and I was in love. I ended up buying the car. The car when I bought it actually was a 331. It's a 331, had the long tube, big long tube headers. It had flow masters with turn downs, no tailpipes. So it was just a loud, carbureted car. And it has some of the Foxbody no-nos. No heat, no air, and it was carbureted. So I wanted the car simply because it took me back to that love I had for triple white convertibles. And it also reminded me a little bit of the car that I wanted. It already had the Cobra R hood, just like the white Phantom. It had the Cobra back bumper. It had a smooth engine bay. It had all polished parts on the engine bay. So I thought, hey man, you know, I can do something with this car. I can build this into what I want it to be. So went back to Jackson, talked to a couple guys from the gym, told them I wanted them to go up with me and take a look at this car, and we did. And they saw it and they fell in love with it too. Even though it didn't have air, even though he had taken the heater tubes off of it, you know, it didn't even have windshield wipers. He was just treating this car like an all-out drag car. He actually had just built it. You know, I got a book of receipts. I got all the receipts for this car. Got a book this big of stuff of over the years that he's done and I've done. And I went ahead and got it. We pulled it back to Jackson, took that 2-hour trip from Evansville to Jackson, Tennessee, and got it back home. But I will say, once I got it back home, I did start to notice over time, about a month later, the car just started running a little different. It was running, just wasn't running right. And I always thought, because the car was carbureted, that was the problem. You know, the carburetor's out of tune. So I actually was getting my motorcycle worked on. And back then I was riding a Suzuki 1000. And there was a guy named Takeover that was working on my Mustang. He was working on my motorcycle. And Takeover was one of the baddest mechanics and one of the baddest drag racers in West Tennessee. Anybody who, you know, was racing from 2010 probably all the way up to about maybe even now, they know Takeover is one of the baddest drag racers, and he's also been one of the best motorcycle mechanics that I've ever dealt with. And I was talking to him one day. I said, Takeover, man, I bought this Mustang and just something ain't right with it. It's not running right, man. I said, who is the Takeover of Mustangs? And he said, Mike Ward. You need to take that car to Mike Ward. You need to go up to the Cadillac dealership and ask for Mike Ward. I said, Mike Ward, that name sounds familiar. So I left Takeover's shop, got on my phone. I said, Dustin, who was that guy you were telling me about, you know, that y'all call Mustang Mike? He's like, Mike Ward. I said, all right then. That's who Takeover recommended to work on my car, and I'm gonna give him a holler. And they were calling him Mustang Mike back in the day. This was long before Street Outlaws. I'm talking 2010, so nobody knew this Mustang Mike from Street Outlaws. They were calling this guy Mustang Mike 12 years ago. So this is the original Mustang Mike we're talking about. So I went up to the Cadillac dealership. I said, man, you know, my name's Koolie. It's long before I was ever two Stangs. I said, man, I bought this car and I had a video of it and I showed him. I said, man, something's not right with it. It don't seem to be running right. And he said, hey man, you know, bring it by my house this Saturday. I said, okay. So I actually lived on the north side of Jackson. Mike Ward lived on the south side of Jackson. So it was a little bit of a ride. So I said, you know, do just the typical thing. Let's go fill this thing up with gas and we're gonna ride to Mike Ward's house. So go get a tank of gas and I'm riding down the street and I noticed this guy, he kept blowing the horn at me and I'm wondering, man, what is this guy, what does he want? I let the window down and he's pointing. He's like, man, your car is leaking gas. I look behind and it's a trail of gas behind the car and I'm like, oh man, I think I'm about to blow up like the Road Run on a Looney Tunes cartoon. So I pull over at the gas station. It was at the corner of Parkway and the bypass, and gas is just shooting out the back of the car, just shooting, and I don't know what to do. So the guy who worked at the liquor store, he came out. He said, man, what is wrong with your car? I said, man, I don't know. I just know I'm leaking gas. said, man, I've never seen a car leak that much gas. I had to call the fire department. I'm thinking, oh man, here we go. So like I said, I'm in Jackson, Tennessee. I don't know that many people there. I don't even know who to call. So I called Mike. I said, look man, I was on the way to your house. I'm pulled over. The car's just leaking gas everywhere, man. I don't know what to do. And to this day, I don't know how Mike got there that fast. That was just, you know, him looking out for me because he had just met me. But at the time, he was driving a OBS Chevy truck. And Mike must have thought he was in the green car that day because he had to drift it sideways all the way there because Mike pulled up about 2 minutes after the fire department got there. So fire department's there, they're putting down that grain stuff to soak up the gas, and I don't really know what to tell him. I don't know what to do. Mike kind of calms him down. He's like, look, you know, it's not a big deal. It's just the seal on the top of his sending unit. The seal on the top of the gas tank's gone bad and it's just shooting out gas, and he just filled it up. So as soon as this car levels out, the gas level goes down, it'll stop leaking. We'll get it back home. And that's exactly how it happened. You know, it stopped leaking gas. Mike followed me back to my house. He took the 2 bolts off the braces. We dropped the gas tanks. He took a look at it. He said, yeah, your seal around your sending unit's gone bad. Just order another one and I'll come by later this week and we'll get it hooked up. So that was the first time the car tried to kill me. Almost blew me up, had me looking like Freddy Krueger. But it wasn't the last time the car tried to kill me. But we'll talk about that in a later video. But next, let me just show you a little bit around the car. So looking at the motor, this car is actually a 331. It's got a DSS forge short block, DSS crank, DSS rods, DSS pistons. Like I said, the car was carbureted when I bought it. I put it back fuel injection. Mike actually put it back fuel injection. Mike put the air back on, put the heat back on, put my windshield wipers back on. I actually added the firewall polish trim, and I went with all polish accessories and pulleys. So this car actually had underdrive pulleys, and within the last couple of years I just decided underdrive pulleys don't really give you a lot of power, and it's not worth it when you got a car that occasionally likes to run hot when you're running air in the summertime. So I went back with the stock pulleys. I had all the stock pulleys chromed, and I actually had aftermarket brackets, and I just did not like the distance between the AC conditioner and the belt tensioner. So I went back with the stock belt tensioner and brackets. It's got all stock brackets. They've just been chromed out. Like I said, I got the Edelbrock Victor Jr. intake. It's got Victor Jr. heads. It's got the Ford Racing polished valve covers. Got the MSD distributor. Got the MSD ignition box and coil. Got the Edelbrock Victor Jr. water pump. It's got a bigger 200 amp alternator by PowerMaster. We'll do a later video about alternators and chrome alternators and what you need to watch out for, but PowerMaster makes a fantastic alternator. But pretty much that is the car. The 93 Cobra wheels were already on it when I bought it. Pretty much what you see on the exterior is how it was the day I bought it.
This is DerekBaranProductions. I'm your Mustangs, and thanks for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe.